Hey Leah, how are you today?
Good, good. How are you doing today, John?
Pretty good. Can't complain. Can't complain at all. I want to welcome the audience. Good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We truly appreciate you. As always, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe. Please give us a like. We try to bring you as much interesting information as we can. And today is part four. And this will be the last part we'll be doing until next week. And you do not want to miss the finale next week. Okay. Next week is going to be the finale. Today is part four of Dark Post from Bryan Kohberger, Final Descent into the Abyss. At this point in time, I have to give our disclaimer. Okay. That Bryan Kohberger is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law of the murder of the four victims that were hacked to death, that were killed on November 13th at Idaho University. Very sad situation, and we want to send our deepest condolences out to their families and friends. So anyway, at this time, I'd like to show my book as well, and thank everybody for purchasing my book, Discovering Lazarus, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of John Kelly, how I kicked a horrific cocaine addiction, moved on to become a counselor, psychotherapist, and eventually a profiler. I want to thank you all so much for your kind comments and purchases. Thank you. Leah, where did we end up here on these posts? You want to read it to me?
Certainly. All right. So picking up from last time here, let me begin here. First one, Kohberger says here, I used to be this healthy, blonde-haired boy with blue eyes, and in a few years, I have darker hair and darker eyes, half the body weight.
Well, I don't see anything too abnormal with that statement at all. I mean, I don't know if he's demeaning himself, uh, if he's just thinking really negatively of himself, what he's attributing that to, like, he's the cause of not being a healthy blonde haired boy, blue eyes, and having darker hair and darker eyes, having half the body weight. Could be the messing around with the heroin at this point in time for sure. Usually that doesn't have any explanation or attribute to, blonde hair turning dark or, you know, blue eyes, uh, and his blue eyes becoming darker eyes. I mean, usually heroin doesn't have anything to do with that. Usually formative years and you're actually forming have something to do with that. Half the body weight, I'm thinking this young man had an eating disorder, ate a lot, ate too much. That's why he got heavy. That's why people made fun of him, bullied him, shamed him, just totally abused him. And maybe he's doing heroin now, and that's how he lost half the body weight. So I don't know. I don't know what he's attributing all this physical stuff to that he's going through. But when I say losing half the body weight, more so than the eyes or the hair, it starts to really lead me to believe that we're dealing, or he is involved, in heroin. Yeah. Okay, that's it for that.
No, fair. Okay, next one. I try to sleep. I try to clear my head, but the pressure won't go away. The pain and depression won't leave. Being me is this horrible disease that I was given. Thanks.
I try to sleep. I try to clear my head. Okay, now that can be drug related too, although that can come from anxiety, that come from depression, it can come from all the above. But the pressure won't go away. I try to clear my head, but the pressure won't go away. What pressure? The pain and depression won't leave. Okay. He's talking about pain and depression. He's depressed. And he's talking about pain from the pressure. Pressure of what? And of course, depression can make you feel horrible. I truly believe that depression is like a cancer of the mind in a way, because it just, if you don't treat it, it just progresses and gets worse. And of course, its progression, as any disease, is to get to the final effect, which is to kill you, just like cancer. And depression, if untreated, can lead to unliving yourself. I guess that's the term we need to use with YouTube, but you know what I'm talking about. So the depression won't leave. Being me is this horrible disease. Is that right?
Yeah.
That I was given. Being me is this horrible disease that I was given. Now, what does that mean? I know lots of times back in the day, they talked about addiction being genetic. So is he talking about his addictive illness? And that he genetically was given this by someone else in his family tree? Pretty interesting here. Or is he saying he is a horrible disease? So I'd love the audience participation. I've mentioned this before so many times. I mean, two heads are better than one, and three heads are better than two, et cetera, and so on and so forth. Bottom line being, I'd like their feedback on what they think being me is this horrible disease that I was given. Okay, so he's looking at himself as a horrible disease. I mean, that's pretty rough, right? I mean, you talk about something that would depress you. If you're having thoughts all day, you're having these, cognitive distortions, these distorted thoughts that are all negative and bombarding you and leading you to believe you're a horrible disease. I mean, you would be, in a major depression and probably filled with despair. Okay, so let's see what the audience has to say on that. Okay, next.
All right. I fall asleep, but I wake up quickly to bloody screams. Is any of this here? Am I brain damaged?
I fall asleep, but I wake up quickly to bloody screams. Is any of this here? And my brain damaged? Well, if he's doing drugs, he's damaging his brain. There's no question about that. We don't know if he is or not at this point. I seem to believe he's starting to dip and dab at least, but I can't confirm that at this point. Only he knows. Family maybe knows. I fall asleep, but I wake up quickly to bloody screams. Well, what we're looking at there, I mean, this is, something to do with nightmares and night terrors. Could be a nightmare, could be a night terror. At his age, I have to believe this could be coming from, some kind of post-traumatic stress that he's still entertaining, that started in childhood. It could be childhood trauma from where he ran into a lot of different types of abuse. And it could be a mixture of the trauma and the drugs. It could be a mixture of, or not a mixture, but trying to kick heroin, something like that, withdrawals from, a drug. But I really, I really think we're looking at night terrors and nightmares that are being caused by some childhood trauma. I'm not saying drugs aren't involved in some way, but this is reeking of, of course, along with the depression and other anxieties going through, it's reeking of, PTSD. So anyway, he's also talking about his head as well. Thoughts or something?
Brain damage. We have the last point here. Right, I have these thoughts all in my head. I search for someone to relate to me. Everyone looks down upon me. No one can relate.
This is pretty sad too, in a way. I have these thoughts all in my head. These are all negative, self-defeating, criticizing thoughts that create feelings. Remember, thoughts create feelings, right? So he's at a young age walking around with all this negative criticism in his head. A friend of mine calls it negatitis, where somebody's obsessively, conjuring up all these negative thoughts. But again, depression is a disease that, not only is about these thoughts, but can add to these thoughts as well and create them. Like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? The thoughts or the depression? Usually, I believe it's the self-defeating thoughts, self-criticizing, self-demeaning thoughts that move on into the depression, and the depression progresses. I search for someone to relate to. That's very interesting to me. Very interesting to me. He can't relate to anybody, he's saying. He cannot relate to anybody at this age. That is very, very, very interesting. You can see this kind of asocial personality starting to take place as he's going into, his final descent into the abyss. And then he turns around and he talks, everyone looks down upon me. Everyone looks down upon me. So what leads him to believe that? Is that a fact? Does he just not get along with anyone? Doesn't seem that way from some of the people that have talked about him. Seems that way from some of them, but not all of them. But everyone, he says all, right? Everyone is all. Everyone looks down upon me, and no one can relate. No one can relate. Well, bottom line, they're not as sick as you are right now at that age. And obviously, this is not the norm for young teens to be going through something like this and to have these kinds of thoughts and feelings about themselves. He has a lot of intrusive thoughts. These thoughts are flying in and out of his head, and that's just what depression and anxiety does. And it's signaling these early mental problems. The intrusive thoughts is writing about them, maybe even talking about them at home, maybe talking about them to the one doctor that he was seeing. Is signaling these early mental problems. Is it a plea for help at this point? I don't know. He's obviously putting it out there in writing. He's putting it out there on paper. He's also looking for someone who can relate to him. He's realizing he is different and he is becoming different. He can't establish rapport with others, and he realizes this. He realizes this at this age. And in a lot of cases like this, you will see someone resort to heroin, because heroin is such a strong central nervous system depressant that it will just, knock you out in a way. I mean, it's a sedative, a very strong sedative. So it's going to take you out of this distorted reality, from these distorted thoughts, because it's going to quell them. It's going to stop them. It's going to numb them. You're not going to feel any mental pain. Okay. Once you hit up or snort up that heroin, you're not going to feel much of anything. And you're definitely not going to have to deal with these kind of self-destructive negative thoughts until you come down. And then it starts all over again. So the worse you feel, the more you use, but the more you use, the worse you feel. So the more you use. I mean, that's how the game's played, right? So looking at this here, and to wrap this up, bottom line, there's no sense of self here. I believe there's no sense of self. True sense of self. Just a lot of self-demeaning and self-criticism. He's losing himself in the abyss. There's no positive writing here or positive affirmations at all. Nothing positive. Everything is dark and negative. There's no light coming in. Okay? There's no light at the end of the tunnel that he sees here. His mind is in a completely dark, negative world of depression at this point in time. That's my firm belief. I don't think it goes much further than that. I truly believe that he, at this point in time, is made his final descent into his own personal dark abyss. Well, with that being said, folks, thanks for tuning in. We always appreciate you. We truly appreciate your feedback. We'll be looking for it. Let us know with your comments. We always appreciate your comments. So until next time, and that may be sooner than later. We're looking at a couple different things right now. But definitely the finale on Bryan Kohberger's Dark Post will be next week. But anyway, stay safe out there, folks. Take care of yourself. Stay on your toes. We live in a dangerous world. And until we meet again, take care and God bless. Thank you.